Can a judge ever become voice of the people? Can a courtroom become the conscience of a nation? One name comes up time and again, DY Chandrachud. He once said in a television interview that I would like to see how is my work valued after my retirement. After his retirement, we have seen two more Chief Justices. So a question echoes across the legal fraternity and beyond. Can we afford to forget DY Chandrachud? His few decisions are being unturned, not the judicial decisions, but the administrative. He was a CJI in recent times to have a longest tenure. Before him, former CJI Balakrishnan did the same, and after him, only Justice Pardiwala will have such a long tenure. It is normal that when you have such a long tenure as CJI, the expectations are also equally high. Therefore, there would be comparisons and certainly evaluations also. That's what DYC wanted the same. Dr. Dhananjaya Yeshwant Chandrachud, the 50th Chief Justice of India, a man whose philosophy balances tradition with transformation, precedent with progress, and law with liberty. From academic excellence to bold bench decisions, his journey from Bombay High Court to the Supreme Court bench is a story worth remembering. We have three parts of this video. First, we would talk about the few decisions which were really landmark decisions. Secondly, the administrative work done by him, and then the comparison and the controversies and his past retrial assignment. Can we just say that Justice Chandrachud is not just a judge, he's a reformer on the bench. Let's recall some of his landmark cases where his voice stood out, sometimes as a majority and sometimes more memorably in dissent. The most landmark decisions of DYC was Puttaswamy case of 2017. This is a decision on right to privacy. This judgment declared privacy a fundamental right, a judgment that now safeguards everything from digital data to dignity. LGBTQ plus community decision in Navteej Jauhar in 2018 was also one of the landmark decisions in the world history. This decision decriminalized homosexuality under Section 377 IPC. Justice Chandrachud called the law a colonial relic that had no place in constitutional democracy. The Sabarimala verdict of 2018 was also one of the landmark decisions. Though controversial, but this judgment emphasized on constitutional morality over religious orthodoxy. Bhima Koregaon arrests, known as Romila Thapar case of 2018 judgment, his powerful dissent on liberty and state overreach reminds us dissent is the safety valve of democracy. Ram Janmabhoomi case of 2019 is also one of his judgments which impacted the entire nation. These decisions were before he took the oath as CJI, then he became CJI in 2022. After taking oath, he had rendered a few other landmark judgments. Often, they were against the government, but some of them favored the government. The decision of demolition of electoral bans in 2024 marked a significant push for transparency in political funding. Then, the judgment of the minority status of Aligarh Muslim University. In his last 2 years, constitution benches led by CJI Chandrachud passed significant decisions in arbitration matters, which includes unstamped arbitration agreements, group of companies doctrine, declaring unilateral appointment of arbitrations as invalid. Subclassification within SC/ST categories, challenges to abrogation of Article 370, plea of marriage equality in the case of Supriyo, that is, Supriya Chakrabarti versus Union of India, were some of his greatest and most celebrated judgments, which puts him in the line of few of the greatest judges of the Supreme Court. Each decision added a layer to India's democratic fabric.
I was fortunate to work closely with Honorable Justice DY Chandrachud as the Secretary of Supreme Court Bar Association. Whenever we met along with the association, he greeted us warmly and with a smile and would say, Rohit, what new demands you have for the bar. This showed his friendliness and how easy it was to talk to him. He built a strong connection between the bar and bench. And I'll tell you, during lunch breaks, he would sit with lawyers in the canteen, have tea, talk to them, listen to their problems, and often solve them on the spot without delay.
The next part of our discussion is reforms done by DYC beyond the bench. A Chief Justice is not merely a justice, but he is also a leader and head of the entire judiciary of the nation. Therefore, his administrative skills not only impact the administration in the Supreme Court of India, but all the other high courts, district courts, magistrate courts, tribunals, etc. But Justice Chandrachud isn't only about landmark judgments. He brought a visionary shift to the Indian judiciary by embracing technology as a tool of reform. As the 50th Chief Justice of India, he played a key role in modernizing the court system, making it more inclusive and efficient. Under his leadership, digital courts became a reality, reducing delays and enhancing transparency. He introduced paperless benches, cutting down on the cumbersome files and encouraging environmentally responsible practices. What truly sets him apart was his commitment to bridging the gap between privilege and access. With the rapid expansion of virtual hearings, he ensured justice wasn't just for the elite lawyers of Delhi or Mumbai, but equally reachable for litigants in small towns and rural areas. His focus on digital infrastructure made it possible for courts to function even during the toughest times like the COVID-19 pandemic when physical presence was a challenge. In the Supreme Court, he stopped circulation of the letter, naming it to stop the Tariq per Tariq justice. Being a pass out from Harvard, he started bringing the judges and chief justices of other countries to Supreme Court and share benches with them. He made various landmark changes in the Supreme Court judiciary. The system of filing of cases, listing of cases was also completely changed. Digital filing of the cases was made smooth and mandatory. In the effort of saving trees, digital submission of appearances, digital passes of the litigants, advocates and clerks were also introduced. These small but impactful efforts of the ex-CJI helped tremendously in saving lakhs of trees. This is the reason that other courts in India also started following the same system. We have seen wastage of papers in the courts, but that has also changed. He made the judges of the Supreme Court work on iPads, laptops, and computers. He also emphasized on advocates also using digital devices. Today, most of the judges use the devices for reading the files and making notes. No paper, no pen, no ink is needed. When we walk in the corridors of the Supreme Court and a few of the High Court's lawyers, old-aged lawyers, also walk with an iPad in their hands and argue their cases. By combining tradition with technology, Justice Chandrachud emerged not just as a judge, but as a reformer. Someone who understood that justice must evolve with the times to stay relevant and fair. He was a vocal judge. We can give credit DYC for this, that judges started speaking in media, which shows his philosophical depth. He went to media houses, he went to conclaves, events. He used to deliver lectures in events at law schools also. His speeches often quote literature, philosophy, and constitutional ethics. From Dr. Ambedkar to Tagore, he brings the humanistic depth to legal interpretation. His vision of the Constitution is not just a document of rules, but a moral compass. Out of the 34 judges working in the Supreme Court right now, 17 have been elevated on the recommendation of the Collegium led by the Justice DY Chandrachud. He also transferred number of judges from one High Court to another High Court. He advocated for the transparency in judicial system and started live streaming of the Constitution benches. When he was sitting in court number 2, one of the younger lawyers was recording his proceedings, which was objected by others. Justice Chandrachud then permitted him to record the same, citing transparency.
During his tenure, he brought the justice system closer to the people. He introduced live streaming of the court proceedings and made the Supreme Court more modern and accessible. And really, he removed the fear and hesitation people once felt about approaching the Supreme Court. Because of his efforts, the court started to feel more open, more human.
Now the third part of our discussion, its critics and controversies. There have been number of controversies revolving around DYC. Yes, like every other towering figure, he too has faced criticism. From his role in the Ayodhya judgment to allegations of judicial overreach. Some argue he leans too much into activism. But isn't a vibrant democracy built on robust debate and honest dissent? For the last few years, we have seen the judgments of the Supreme Court being criticized in public. Justice DYC was not an exception to this. This is a new tradition attached to almost all the retiring CJIs in the recent times. His decision in Ayodhya case was criticized the most. Merely, not the decision, but when he visited his ancestral village just before his retirement as CJI, he made a statement that I sat before the Almighty and sought guidance for the decision. Though the court acknowledged the demolition of Babri Masjid in 1992 as illegal, it still granted the land to the Hindu side. Critics felt the judgment leaned more on the faith than legal evidence, and that the court had compromised secularism for majoritarian sentiments. His dissent in Bhima Koregaon case was hailed as courageous but also criticized by some for being soft on individuals accused of being national security threats. Massive protests erupted across Kerala and parts of South India with critics alleging judicial interference in religious customs on the decision of Justice Chandrachud when he ruled banning women of menstruating age from entering the Sabarimala temple as unconstitutional. If we talk about his criticism in administrative side, it is said that as a Chief Justice, Chandrachud held immense administrative power, especially over case listings and bench compositions. The allegations, though not formally substantiated, are that sensitive or high profile matters were strategically assigned to select benches. Some senior advocates and bar members expressed concern that judicial accountability suffers when there is no transparency in allocation of cases. In India, judges are traditionally seen as aloof, reserved, and detached from the public discourse. Their opinions are mostly limited to judgments, formal, legal, and often inaccessible to the general public. Most judges avoid public appearances, rarely give interviews, and almost never engage directly with the contemporary social debates. This closed chamber justice approach is based on the idea that judicial dignity lies in silence, neutrality, and staying away from the politics, media, and public perception. Justice Chandrachud broke these barriers. He went to media, he participated in open and public discussions like politicians do. He was criticized for that. Justice Chandrachud is often described as people-friendly, progressive, and media-sensitive. While many see this as a welcome change, some critics view his visibility as bordering on judicial populism. The line between constitutional idealism and judicial overreach has often been a point of debate in his decision and speeches. Coming from a rich judicial background, having his father also the Chief Justice of India, he was the first judge who introduced his family into public. His photos and videos with his daughter's wife also went viral. This showcased his humanitarian side when it was revealed that his two daughters are adopted and differently abled and taken care by him. Just a few days before his retirement, he sparked the biggest controversy when the Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited his official house at Delhi. People connected this with the few verdicts given by him in favor of the government and the Ayodhya verdict. One controversy which rumored in the corridors was when he was sitting in court number 2 and it was last call by the collegium led by the then CJI Lalit, and Justice Chandrachud sat in the court till 9:10 pm and avoided the collegium meet. The list to talk about Justice Chandrachud is too long. It is really difficult to sum it up in this video, but we would like to sum it up with his post-retirement assignment as joining as a professor at the Delhi National Law University. Now, the long illustrious career of this true stalwart would be distributed among the next generation. Before parting, I would recommend you to visit the Mitti Cafe in the Supreme Court, which is being run by all the differently abled children. They were introduced by the man of the video, DY Chandrachud. This is not merely bringing a cafe to Supreme Court for making news in public, but an inspiration to other such people to work in these lines.
Some of his contribution inspired deeply for persons with differently abled. He supported the Mitti Cafe in the Supreme Court, run by people with disability, a powerful message of dignity and inclusion. For the visually impaired, he introduced screen reading software accessible court documents, and improved the website to remove digital barriers. And most important thing for the transgender community, he encouraged inclusive hiring, sensitivity training, and always reminded us dignity has no gender. And he also opened a toilet for transgender. His working style combined quick decisions, deep empathy, and a strong sense of justice. He handled even complex matters with calmness and clarity. Salute to our former CGI, Honorable Mr. Justice DY Chandrachud. Salam ho aapko sir.
So the question with which we started this video, can we forget DY Chandrachud? The answer is no. Not just as a judge, but as a voice that tried to bring law closer to justice, rights closer to reality, and courts closer to common people. The humanitarian aspect of him is also unforgettable. When you read his two-finger test judgment, which banned two-finger test on rape survivors. Even if history forgets, the Constitution won't. Because some judgments don't just interpret the law, they shape the nation. Friends, if you found this video thought-provoking, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to The Law Advice. Drop your views in the comments. What do you think of Justice DY Chandrachud's legacy? Until next time, stay informed, stay empowered.